Here's something that might surprise you. Jesus didn't just pray and read scripture. While we focus on the spiritual disciplines everyone talks about, there are 3 practices Jesus consistently demonstrated that we've somehow forgotten. And here's the thing. These aren't just nice ideas. They're actual game changers for your spiritual life. Let me ask you something. When you think about spiritual disciplines, what comes to mind? Prayer, Bible study, fasting, worship, right? But what if I told you that Jesus practiced disciplines that are so woven into the fabric of his life that we've missed them entirely? Today, we're diving deep into 3 spiritual disciplines that Jesus lived by. Disciplines that could revolutionize how you connect with God, but somehow, nobody's talking about them. The first discipline Jesus practiced consistently was the discipline of presence. Not just being present with God, but being fully present with people. Think about this for a moment. Every gospel account shows Jesus doing something remarkable. He was never in a hurry with people. When the woman with the issue of blood touched his garment, Jesus stopped everything. The crowd was pressing in, yet he turned and said, "Who touched me?" In our age of constant distraction, this feels almost impossible. We're present with our phones, present with our thoughts, present with our next appointment, but rarely present with the person right in front of us. Jesus mastered what Dallas Willard called the ministry of presence, the ability to be completely available to whoever God placed in his path. Here's what's beautiful about this discipline. It's not about having more time. It's about stewarding the time you have differently. When Jesus ate with tax collectors, he wasn't multitasking. When he taught the disciples, he wasn't checking the next item on his agenda. He was fully there. And here's where it gets personal. This discipline transforms not just your relationships with people, but your relationship with God. When you practice presence with others, you're actually practicing presence with Christ himself. Remember his words? "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." The second discipline Jesus practiced was the discipline of withdrawal. Now, before you think I'm talking about alone time, hold on. This goes deeper. Luke tells us that Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. But notice something. He withdrew before the pressure mounted, not after. This wasn't reactive, it was proactive. Jesus built rhythm into his life that included strategic withdrawal from the demands of ministry. In The Rest of God, Mark Buchanan writes about how Jesus never seemed frantic or hurried, even when facing enormous pressure. Why? Because he understood that withdrawal wasn't laziness, it was warfare. It was actively resisting the tyranny of the urgent. Think about your own life. When do you withdraw? Usually when we're overwhelmed, stressed, or burned out. Jesus withdrew when he was effective, when crowds were gathering, when ministry was thriving. He withdrew from strength, not from weakness. This discipline teaches us something profound about spiritual maturity. The goal isn't to become so spiritual that you never need to withdraw. The goal is to become so spiritually intelligent that you withdraw before you need to. The third discipline, and this might challenge you, is the discipline of righteous anger. Yes, you heard that right. Jesus practiced anger as a spiritual discipline. Before you get uncomfortable, let me explain. When Jesus cleansed the temple, that wasn't an emotional outburst. That was disciplined anger. Anger that was controlled, purposeful, and directed toward injustice, not toward people. We've been taught that good Christians don't get angry. But that's not biblical. Paul said, "Be angry and do not sin." The discipline isn't avoiding anger. It's channeling anger toward what breaks God's heart instead of what inconveniences us. Jesus was angry at systems that oppressed the poor. He was angry at religious leaders who made God's house a burden instead of a blessing. He was angry at anything that separated people from their Father. But notice, he was never angry at people for being broken. He was angry at the things that kept them broken. This discipline is desperately needed in our generation. We get angry at traffic jams and slow internet, but we're numb to injustice and spiritual deadness. Jesus shows us how to flip that script. Now, here's what ties these three disciplines together. They're all about love. Presence is love in action. Withdrawal is love for yourself and others because you can't give what you don't have. Righteous anger is love that refuses to let evil win. These aren't just ancient practices. They're as relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. Maybe more relevant. In a world that demands your attention, presence becomes revolutionary. In a culture that glorifies busyness, withdrawal becomes prophetic. In a society that's either outraged about everything or numb to everything, righteous anger becomes healing. Jesus didn't just practice these disciplines, he mastered them. And here's the beautiful truth. He's inviting you to walk in the same freedom he walked in, not through perfect performance, but through intentional practice. Here's my challenge for you. Which of these three disciplines is God calling you to embrace first? Presence? Withdrawal? Righteous anger? Drop a comment and let me know. I read every single one, and if these deeper truths are stirring something in your heart, join our community for more uplifting and timely words that meet you right where you are. Because at the end of the day, the most spiritual thing you can do might just be the most human thing you can do. That's the life Jesus lived. That's the life he's calling you to.